Imagine, just for a moment, the library of your life. Every book on those shelves represents a memory. The smell of your grandmother's kitchen, the sound of your first child's laugh, the route you drove to work for 30 years, the face of the person you love most in this world. Now, imagine the lights in that library start to dim. Shadows creep into the corners. You reach for a book you've read 1,000 times, but the pages are blank. You try to find the shelf labeled yesterday, but the entire aisle is gone. This is the terrifying reality of dementia. It is the long goodbye. It is the slow, agonizing theft of the soul while the body remains. We have been told over and over again that this tragedy is written in our stars. We are told it is a cruel game of genetics or simply the unavoidable cost of growing old. We are told to accept it. But what if we have been lied to? What if the thief robbing that library isn't old age? What if the thief isn't a bad gene? What if the thief is sitting right now in your bathroom cabinet? There is a silent crisis happening in homes across America today. It is a crisis that is filling nursing homes faster than we can build them. It is leaving millions of families confused, heartbroken, and chemically separated from the people they love. And the most terrifying part? We are doing this to ourselves, willingly, with a glass of water, every single morning and every single night. You trust your doctor. You trust the pharmacist behind the counter. You trust that if a bottle is sold over the counter without a prescription, it must be as safe as drinking water. But new research, undeniable, terrifying research from the world's top neurology departments, is sounding an alarm that we can no longer ignore. There is a specific group of medications, drugs you likely take for sleep, for allergies, for heartburn, or for mood, that are not just treating your symptoms. They are physically changing the architecture of your brain. They are shrinking the very centers of your mind responsible for learning, for memory, and for consciousness. We are talking about a risk increase, not of 5% or 10%. We are seeing studies showing risk explosions of nearly 50%. Think about that. 1 in 2. If you knew that a sandwich had a 50% chance of giving you a heart attack, you would never eat it. Yet millions of seniors are swallowing pills every day that are effectively chemical lobotomies in slow motion. And the pharmaceutical industry? They have known about the mechanism of action for decades. They know exactly which chemical pathways these drugs block. But the warning labels are tiny, the fine print is unreadable, and the connection between that harmless pill and your grandmother's sudden confusion is rarely made by the doctor. Instead, when the memory starts to slip, when the brain fog rolls in, the doctor nods sympathetically and says, well, they are getting older. They blame the age, they ignore the drug. In this documentary, we are going to peel back the label. We are going to expose the 9 most dangerous categories of medications that could be erasing your mind right now. We are going to rank them, from the ones you suspect to the ones you would never, ever believe could be dangerous. We will look at the science that they don't want you to see. We will explain in plain English exactly how these chemicals cross the blood-brain barrier and starve your neurons. But more importantly, we are going to tell you how to protect yourself. Because in many cases, this damage is not permanent if you catch it in time. If you have ever felt that sudden, terrifying moment where a word is on the tip of your tongue but refuses to come, if you have ever walked into a room and completely forgotten why you were there, if you have watched a parent suddenly decline after a hospital stay, you need to listen to every single word of this report. Do not turn away. Your future and the future of your family depends on understanding what is happening inside your body. Let's begin the countdown with number 9. And do not let this low number fool you. This first culprit is perhaps the most insidious of them all because it is so common, so cheap, and so readily available that we treat it like candy. Number 9. The sleep and allergy deception. Go to any drugstore in America. Walk down the aisle. You will see hundreds of pink and blue boxes. They promise you a good night's sleep. They promise to dry up your runny nose. They promise relief. The chemical name is diphenhydramine. You know it as Benadryl. But it is hiding in dozens of other products. Anything labeled PM, anything labeled nighttime cold relief. Almost every generic sleep aid on the shelf relies on this one chemical. Here is the problem. Diphenhydramine belongs to a class of drugs known as anticholinergics. Now that's a big word, but the concept is simple and frightening. Your brain runs on electricity and chemicals. One of the most important chemicals in your brain is called acetylcholine. Think of acetylcholine as the learning messenger. Every time you learn a new name, every time you remember where you put your keys, every time your brain forms a memory, it uses acetylcholine to send that signal across the gap between your brain cells. It is the fuel for cognition. It is the oil that keeps the gears of your mind turning smoothly. Anticholinergic drugs, like that innocent pink allergy pill, work by blocking this chemical. They literally stop the learning messenger from doing his job. That's why they make you sleepy. They are shutting down the activity in your brain. They are turning down the dimmer switch of your consciousness. For a young person, occasionally, the brain can bounce back. But for a senior, for a brain that is already aging, this is catastrophic. When you take these drugs regularly, you are effectively putting your brain into a state of chemical starvation. You are depriving your neurons of the very signal they need to survive. And what happens to a muscle that isn't used? It shrinks, it withers. The same thing happens to your brain. A landmark study published in the Journal of the American Medical Association tracked thousands of seniors. They found that those with the highest cumulative use of these anticholinergic drugs had significantly higher rates of dementia. We are talking about physical atrophy of the brain tissue. The researchers could actually see it on the MRI scans. The brains of the people taking these safe sleep aids looked older, smaller, and more damaged than the brains of those who didn't. And remember, this isn't some illegal street drug. This is the pill you take because you have the sniffles. This is the pill you take because you had a stressful day and just want to close your eyes. You take it to rest, but you are waking up with a little less of yourself every morning. And the danger is deceptively labeled. You might avoid Benadryl, but did you check your Tylenol PM? Did you check that generic cold medicine? It is hiding everywhere. If you are over the age of 65, doctors who specialize in geriatrics, the care of the elderly, will often tell you that this chemical should be on the do not touch list. Yet millions of seniors take it every single night, unaware that the fog they feel the next day isn't just a groggy morning. It is a sign of neural distress. But the assault on your brain doesn't stop at the nightstand. It moves to the kitchen table, to the medicine you take right before breakfast. This brings us to number 8, the stomach protector that leaves the brain defenseless. We live in a stressful world. We eat processed foods, we rush through meals, and the result is heartburn, acid reflux, the fire in the chest. To put out that fire, we turn to proton pump inhibitors, or PPIs. You know them as Prilosec, Nexium, Prevacid, the purple pill. These drugs are absolute miracles for stopping acid. They work by shutting down the acid pumps in your stomach lining. They are so effective that people start taking them and they never stop. They take them for years, decades even. But nature loves balance, and when you aggressively alter the chemistry of your stomach, you create a domino effect that reaches all the way to your brain. Here is the secret connection that the commercials never mention. Your stomach acid is not just there to digest food. It is there to break down specific nutrients so your body can absorb them. One of the most critical nutrients requires strong stomach acid to be released from food. That nutrient is vitamin B12. Now you might think, it's just a vitamin, I'll take a supplement. But B12 is not just a vitamin. It is the insulation for your nerves. Imagine the wiring in your house. Every copper wire is wrapped in a rubber coating. If you strip that coating away, the wires spark, they short circuit, and eventually the power goes out. In your body, that coating is called myelin.
and B12 is essential for building and maintaining that myelin sheath. When you take strong acid blockers for years, you suppress the acid needed to absorb B12. Slowly, silently, your levels drop. Your nerve insulation begins to thin. The signals in your brain start to spark and short-circuit. The symptoms of a severe B12 deficiency look almost exactly like Alzheimer's disease. Confusion, memory loss, personality changes, paranoia. How many seniors are sitting in nursing homes right now diagnosed with dementia, when in reality, their brains are simply starving for B12 because of the heartburn pill they've been taking since 2010? Studies have shown a chilling correlation. Regular users of these drugs have a significantly higher risk of developing cognitive issues. And it's not just B12. These drugs also block the absorption.
Because when you step off that edge, the fall is often silent, slow, and completely invisible until you hit the bottom. Number 5. The chemical handcuffs. We are talking about benzodiazepines. You know them by the names that have become part of our cultural vocabulary: Xanax, Valium, Ativan, Klonopin. These drugs are the fire extinguishers of the psychiatric world. When panic sets in, when the heart races, when the mind spins with worry that feels like it will never end, these pills offer an almost immediate, blissful silence. They work by enhancing a neurotransmitter called GABA. Imagine your brain is a car speeding down the highway at 100 miles an hour. GABA is the brake pedal. These drugs slam that brake pedal to the floor. The car slows down, the engine quiets, the passenger, you, finally feels safe. For a severe panic attack, used once or twice, they are a miracle. But here is the tragedy. We are not using them once or twice. We are prescribing them to seniors for chronic anxiety, for grief, and most dangerously, for sleep. And the brain, in its infinite wisdom, adapts. It realizes the brakes are being pushed by an outside force, so it stops using its own brakes. It becomes dependent on the pill just to feel normal. And over time, that chemical sedation begins to soak into the architecture of the mind. A study published in the British Medical Journal followed thousands of people for years. They found that taking these drugs for just 3 months, 90 days, increased the risk of Alzheimer's disease by 51%. 51%. Why? Because these drugs don't just slow down anxiety, they slow down everything. They slow down the formation of new neural pathways. They slow down the processing of information. They put the brain into a state of twilight. Patients on long-term benzodiazepines often describe a feeling of being wrapped in cotton wool. The sharp edges of life are gone, yes, but so is the clarity. So is the spark. They stop reading because they can't follow the plot. They stop engaging in conversation because it takes too much effort to find the words. They withdraw. And their families watch this happen, thinking, "Mom is just getting older. She's just tired." They don't realize that the pill she takes with her dinner is chemically stealing her personality. And the most terrifying part of the benzodiazepine trap is the exit. Trying to stop these drugs after years of use is one of the most difficult medical challenges a patient can face. The withdrawal can cause rebound anxiety that is 10 times worse than the original problem, convincing the patient that they need the drug to survive. It is a perfect, vicious cycle. The drug causes the decline, and the drug makes it impossible to stop. If you are taking these nightly for sleep, you need to know that you are not getting natural, restorative sleep. You are getting anesthesia. You are being knocked out. And while you are knocked out, your brain is not cleaning itself. It is not flushing out the toxins that lead to dementia. It is simply sitting there, sedated, accumulating damage. But while benzos are famous and many people know to be wary of them, our next culprit is a ghost. It is an old drug, a relic of the past, that is still being prescribed to millions of unsuspecting seniors who have no idea they are taking a heavy-duty psychiatric medication. Number 4. The hidden antidepressant used for pain. The drug is amitriptyline. The brand name was Elavil. If you look back in medical history, this drug was the heavyweight champion of treating depression in the 1970s, but it came with heavy side effects, so doctors stopped using it for mood. But they didn't stop using it entirely. They found it had a side effect that was useful. It numbed nerve pain, and it made people sleepy. So today, millions of seniors walk into their doctor's office complaining of shingles pain or diabetic neuropathy or migraines or even just chronic back pain, and they walk out with a prescription for amitriptyline. They are not depressed. They don't think they are taking a mind-altering drug. They think they are taking a painkiller. But amitriptyline is one of the most potent anticholinergic drugs in existence. Remember that word? Anticholinergic. It means it blocks the learning messenger acetylcholine. We talked about this with the allergy pills, but amitriptyline is like using a sledgehammer where the allergy pill was a tack hammer. It creates a profound blockade of the memory centers. In a massive study analyzing over 3,000 older adults, they found a direct linear link. The more of this drug you took and the longer you took it, the higher your risk of dementia. It is a cumulative poison for the memory. Imagine a teacher trying to write a lesson on a chalkboard, but someone is standing there with an eraser, wiping it clean every 5 seconds. The teacher writes, the eraser wipes. The teacher writes, the eraser wipes. Eventually, the teacher gives up. That is your brain on amitriptyline. And because the decline is slow, it happens over months and years, no one blames the pain pill. The patient starts forgetting appointments. They start repeating stories. They get lost driving to the grocery store. And the doctor says, well, let's test for Alzheimer's. They never say, let's stop the amitriptyline. It is a tragedy of misdiagnosis. We are treating the side effects of one drug with more drugs, creating a cocktail of confusion. And speaking of confusion, we have to talk about the most deceptive class of drugs on this list.